Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Edna White, your host of Keeping It Real on Purpose. And today our guest is none other than the author of a great book. I'll let her tell you that though. Rachel Marie Martin. Now, what do we know about Rachel Marie Martin? Well, I'm going to tell you, I love to talk about the areas they're from, which I'd never heard of this area, but I heard of Tennessee, but it's Mount Juliet. So I'm thinking something beautiful, like there's a mountain with a woman on it. That's what I'm thinking. But I know she's gonna like kind of tell us about that. I want to know about that area. Rachel believes in the power of the human spirit to overcome, thrive, and find deep joy. And because of that, she pours out her heart via these platforms. She's a writer beyond the site of findingjoy.net, an author of both Mom Enough and The Brave Art of Motherhood. Ooh, you got that right. And founding partner of Audience Industries. Her content that she provides on all these amazing platforms. They're featured on Huntington Post, The Today Show, Star Tribune, Tiny Buddha, iVillage, Stuff New Zealand, John Tesh, Motherly Parents, What to Expect, Independent Journal Review, Dr. Green, Power of Positivity. Had to breathe on that. So you know she speaks worldwide. She encourages moms and entrepreneurs to live each day with purpose and drive. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing none other than our own, now own Rachel Marie Martin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I need you to introduce me to my kids sometimes because that's powerful. That was awesome.
Well, I'm so glad you are here. Now I am excited to hear, I didn't know that you had all these books going on. I really didn't.
Right.
And I love the fact you work with moms.
hmm
So tell us about, you could pick any book, pick any article, pick any book to start with. We want to hear it all. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, first, I have to clarify that Mount Juliet thing when you said it, because
Oh.
it does sound amazing, but it's a suburb of Nashville. So I really do. Like most of the time, I say I live in Nashville. So
Oh,
I do, which is
okay.
still amazing
Yes,
and
amazing in
beautiful. And
itself.
when, yeah,
Okay.
and people
Okay.
find out I live here, they're like, "You do?" And I always joke, it's not like I'm on Broadway all the time. I live in the suburbs. So, but it is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yes.
But
Awesome.
yeah. So my one of the favorite things I've ever written, I think that was your question.
Yes.
It was an article that I wrote to moms, but I think when I look back, I was writing to myself, and it was post my divorce in my single parenting days, and I wrote, "Dear mom, you're stronger than you think."
Yeah.
And I talked about the strength. And I didn't talk about all these big things. I would say tucking your kids up after the hardest day ever is strong.
Yeah.
And I just kept going through all these places that we tend to dismiss as strong. And I
Hmm.
wanted to highlight them. I wanted to say, you are so strong. And I just
Yeah.
wanted them to see it. And now looking back almost a decade later, I'm like, oh my goodness, I was writing my into my own soul, my own heart at that moment.
Yeah, and you get like that when you're a writer. It just
Yep.
comes out, and you're really talking about yourself. But in the heart and the scheme of things, we're really talking to everyone else. You are
Right.
my sister.
Yes.
We're one another.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I so strongly believe that. I called the space on Facebook a sacred space. And I,
Hmm.
especially to women, talk about, we can all have differences, but at the bottom line, we have got to love each other and support
Yeah.
each other because
Yeah.
that's strength.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, and I often talk about that too. And now in the scheme of what's going on in America,
Hmm.
with the embracing of the nomination of a woman,
Hmm.
it calls forth now this thing for us to, no matter what side you're on. I'm not even talking about that side. I'm talking about, it calls forth now the support women, each other, as women.
Right.
Now this is, getting in the forefront now, where we always had that gap. We
Right.
talked, of course, working gap, that gap was always there,
Yes. Yes.
and it's time for us like to come together. I just see like these types of moments isn't really that moment, it's
Mhm.
more of a calling to bring us to a being better people.
Yeah, and it's so important because I've talked about how the best way to honor thousands of years of women fighting for a voice is to really respect it and to
Yes.
honor the fact that we get, like you
Yes.
and I get the opportunity.
Yeah.
100, 200 years ago, there would have been no way.
No
So
way.
I just feel like it's such an honor
Yeah.
to have this space and
Oh
platform
yeah.
and to use it wisely and
Yeah.
to really like sit at the table, have a
Hmm.
conversation,
Hmm.
not and want to learn. That is the most powerful
Yeah.
thing is not to come in right away, but really, I just want to learn. I want to hear. I
Yeah.
want to understand.
Yeah, and then that's important is to, you know, whenever I have this group that's called In the Company of My Sisters. So
Mhm.
we all just come on Zoom and we just talk about whatever. I get a
Beautiful.
bag with topics in it, down through the weeks they give me topics and I throw them in the bag and I shake the bag up and I pull it
That's
out, right?
awesome. That's
And I was like, okay,
awesome.
this is what we're talking about today.
Right.
So it's like every woman in every walk of life shares where they're coming from,
Mhm.
if there's a black woman, she said, shares from the black woman's perspective. The white woman, we talk about this is good for me. And I remember
Mhm.
we did one where I knew her, I knew her,
Right.
and I didn't know that what we were talking about was so important to her. And we were
Mhm.
talking about friendships, true friendships, and
Mhm.
how, we learn over the years how it affects us and how much we
Mhm.
need them. And she said, I didn't even realize all my life I bought my friends.
Mm.
And she
Mm.
was like, until we started talking about it today,
Mhm.
could I truly say I don't have any friends because they all were, I bought them because
Wow.
that, and I was heavier and I,
Mm.
and I just gave my cookies, whatever it was, and
Right.
they expected me to do that, and I thought they were my friends. She
Mhm.
says, I really have, and she broke down. I really now have to look inside and learn to be a friend. How do I be a
Right.
friend? You
Right.
know?
Yeah. Oh, that my heart, because I write a lot about friendships,
Yeah.
because it's so powerful. And I have this really good friend, Heather West. She won Hell's Kitchen. So I mean, let me
Okay.
just tell you, you're a Spitfire already. We know if you even apply for that, but to win. So she's
Yes.
this great friend of mine. But her and I, we decided a couple years ago we were gonna do this race because I'm a runner called the Muddy Princess.
Uh-huh.
So it's, muddy, tutu pink, the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
But the lesson on friendship was so powerful to me because there are these pictures of her and I in mud, like in a pit of mud, and one of us is laying in the dirt, holding and pulling the other one up, right? And then the person that's holding up isn't like, I'm not going to get in the mud for you.
Yeah.
We just did. We just got in there
Yeah.
with each
Yeah.
other. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is such a picture of friendship.
Yeah.
Nobody, we didn't apologize either. Like, I'm so sorry, I got you
No.
really muddy. But friendship is about being there in like
In that
the
mud.
great moments and those moments when you're
Yeah.
like, wow, this is rough, but we're
Yeah.
gonna do it together.
Yeah, and I had an experience like that with one of my friends, I think over 32 years, and we went
Mhm.
to Mexico, and so it was early morning, and we like to see the
Right,
sunrise and everything. So we're in bathing suits already, so we're sitting on the water, and we're sitting there, we're just sitting on the beach,
right.
and the water just kept coming, creeping up, and I was like, I think we should move. Like, all of a sudden this big wave comes up, scoops her up, brings her
Really?
like has her gone all over, and I'm laughing. It comes and grabs me, and we're all
Mhm.
over, right? And we're cracking up. Like it
Yeah,
was the best belly laugh. We couldn't stop
right.
laughing. There
I
was
love that.
sand all in our hair. You know how Mexico is, right? It's
Yes,
sand everywhere.
yes, yes. Oh, I
And
love
we
that
had
you
the
had that
best
memory.
time. We had the best
Right.
time just laughing. And
Right, and
that's
on the
it's important.
expected. Yeah, it was that unexpected where you're
Yeah.
both a mess at that moment, but it was
Yes.
complete joy, so I
And we
love
had to
that.
take pictures. We had to
Of
take
course,
pictures.
of course. Oh, I've got pictures. Heather and I have pictures of it, so and
It's
the
the
ones that
best
where we were, like,
thing.
hanging, pulling each other
Yes.
up, those are my favorite pictures versus the, like, girls look strong where you're posing ones. I love the ones
Those
where
are
we were
not
just
it.
like,
Those are
we
not
were
it.
in
Those are
there.
not it. And then on the opposing side, we have those friends that we have to really evaluate, right?
Right.
We have to
Right.
evaluate their, if it's what do you call it? Reciprocal, you
Yep.
know, and then if it's not, we have to evaluate them. Can you talk about, because I know this all is going to lead up to what you do. So,
Right.
but
Right.
can you
Right.
talk about that a little bit too?
Yeah, I really I think it's a critical part. It's the boundary part
Right.
too of understanding what's the boundary in the context of a friendship. Because
Yes.
I know I once heard an example about if both of you are looking to get something from somebody else, whether it's a friendship or a relationship, and you're not your own soul, spirit, who you are is not you're not prioritizing that and you're
Yeah.
looking for somebody else to fill your happiness cup or
Right.
whatever, you're like two empty vacuums sucking at each
Sucking.
other. And
Yes.
eventually you'll burn out
Yeah.
because you're looking for somebody else to fill it. How come you're not doing it? And they're doing the same.
Yeah.
So with reevaluating friendships, I evaluating them for me, it's, am I showing up the best version of myself that I could be?
Right.
Or am
First.
I putting too much
Yeah.
on them? And there are times definitely, which is hard, where you have to step back. And I think
Right.
in the stepping back allows the clarity. Because
Yeah.
if you're sometimes going full force and not allowing yourself to get that moment of clarity,
Yeah.
then you don't have that pause, that wondering
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about sometimes the best way to be a friend is to be the friend that we would need. I
Yeah.
think that's the most beautiful example of
Yeah.
friendship is the showing up without the expectation,
Right.
just
Right.
wanting to be there with each other.
Yeah. And it's hard, especially friendships of longevity,
Mhm.
they're a challenge. Even
Yes.
relationships are a challenge. And so I always have to evaluate, first look at myself. Am I
Mhm.
coming to this not looking for fulfillment from them? you
Right.
know because and in a way we're just connecting, but
Mhm.
are we connecting the way we both need?
Right. Right.
And I find as I get older, maybe you can clarify because you're good at this, that I do have to reevaluate because longevity doesn't necessarily mean friendship, and I was
Ooh,
getting that
that's
mixed
good.
up.
Yeah, that's powerful because I do feel like we feel, oh, well, we've been friends so long, I can't not be
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
And yet, with our kids or with whatever we're doing in our lives, we're always telling them, you should reevaluate, readjust, you should check
right,
again. And yet,
right.
you're right, there are times where it might not be serving either of you. And it
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be brutally hard. It might just be stepping back a little bit.
right, exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
And
That's
and,
okay.
and you know what? And I beat myself up about stepping back. Then I
Mhm.
had to say no. That's important because
Mhm.
as a friend, a fake friend will probably just like ghost you.
Right, so true, so true.
But a real friend would step back and say, "Am I, becoming an issue, or
Right.
maybe you're becoming more codependent on me. I'm becoming something
Yeah,
that the friendship didn't agree to. Does that
right.
make sense? I'm
That
I'm
totally
I'm
makes
I'm,
sense.
I'm becoming something or someone that you can call on. Not when just call on.
Mhm, uh-huh. Yeah, I think you have to be willing
Just
to.
call on, and
Right.
I'm just to drop the ball and be there, and then it eats me up, and I become this codependent person, and I was reevaluating relationship like that, but but in my stepping back, she noticed. Oh, she's stepping
Yeah,
back,
right,
and she
right.
noticed it. So after I finished doing whatever I was doing with her, and she said to me, "I really thank you
Mm, mhm.
for doing this for me and coming and going out of your way. I felt you stepping back, and
Interesting.
I apologize.
Hmm,
This is what I should have done." And she apologized, and she felt it. Like I had to step
mhm.
back. I had to say, "Let me." because sometimes your emotions do get in the way.
Right, right, right,
They do get in the way, and
right.
they will, curtail things, make things worse. So you might, and I thank, I'm thankful for that pause button. Man, am I
Yeah,
thankful. I have to pause. I know how to use it now. It's not
right.
fast forward, it's not going back, but I pause now, and it's effective. And that's a
Yeah.
great thing to have. Great thing
I
to have.
love that the pause. The power of
Yes.
a pause. I talk about that a lot. People will say, "What's the thing that helps you the most?" Well, besides meditating, it's that pause.
Pause.
And
Yeah.
like even before you and I started talking, if I don't take even 20 seconds to pause,
Yeah.
to just let go of what I don't need to bring into the conversation, because
Yes.
otherwise we come in like it's all there.
Gangbusters.
It's there. Sometimes I feel for my counselor because I do see a counselor and I don't quite have the pause with
Yes.
her. I just come in
Yeah, me
and
too.
I'm
Me
like,
too.
here
I
it
know.
is, here it is. And but otherwise, I've learned, you know, just to take that breath, to be
Yeah.
appreciative for the stoplights in life almost,
Mhm.
because they give you that moment of
Yeah.
clarity
It does.
of
It does.
just catching the breath, seeing something good,
Mhm.
releasing what you don't need to have at that moment, and coming in with yourself, your soul in a little bit more peaceful place.
Yes. So how important is friendship
Mhm.
moving towards parenthood, or maintaining a friendship during
I
parenthood?
think moms feel alone a lot.
Mhm.
As a writer, having been on that online space for a long time, that's probably the number one thing I see is
Yeah.
moms, women, we feel alone, especially in a social media world where we think we shouldn't be alone because we're like, well, I have 4,000 friends on Facebook, but
They're not your friends.
they're not. They're just people, right? And we feel alone. We see curated images of life a lot. And
Yeah.
even though our brains know it's curated, it's
Yeah.
so different. My youngest was born like in 1996. I mean, my oldest was born in 1996.
Mhm.
There was no real social media at that point,
Right.
but I still felt pressure from the Family Fun magazine that came into my house every month. And fast forward to my youngest, who was born in 2009, at the birth of social media,
Yeah.
and it was a different game
Oh
all of
yeah.
a sudden. And so for moms, real friendship comes in those spaces when you're willing to drop that mask, the drop
Yeah.
the illusion, and just be willing to say, here's me.
Right.
And to love the mom who has like, wow, she's so good at organizing, instead of judging, loving. Like, I
Right.
am so glad you're great at organizing. I
Right.
love to garden. How about we switch? We can and do that type of stuff. But
Yeah.
without the judgment or
Yeah.
thinking we have to do everything everybody else does.
Yeah.
I think that's what's hard about social media is we're like,
Yeah.
we need to do this and that and that. And
Yeah.
we see it all with thinking that's all within the parameters of what
Right. Right.
motherhood is without
Mhm.
realizing, wait, that's 15 different people that
Yeah,
are
yeah,
doing
yeah,
all of it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And parenthood is an anomaly all by itself,
it definitely is.
I became a parent early, and like in 17 at
Mhm,
17 in the 80s, and it was very difficult because I was going to college, I was modeling,
mhm,
I was working, and then here's this baby.
mhm.
It's like,
Yep, yep,
it's like, oh my gosh, like it was just like a whole lot. And people ask me now, would you encourage that? I was like, no, I would
right,
never encourage anyone to would go travel the world, come back and say, okay,
right,
now I might figure that part out. But I would
right,
say no. I would say
right.
no.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very hard because now it's a piece of you that you have the highest responsibility for.
very, very true, very true. I had my youngest at 21. I mean, by flipping around, my oldest at 21. So
Hmm.
I too, I really encourage my kids because I see them. My oldest, she's
Yeah.
28 now, so I see them all, and I'm like, you guys experience what you can,
Yeah.
and not that I regret all of that because
Right,
I
right. No,
love
it's not
them.
that. It's not that.
It's
No,
just
it's
more like, wow, I didn't see as much back then,
yes,
or I didn't do
exactly,
it, and I
exactly.
want them to have that curiosity about the
Yeah,
world and to expand their point of reference. I
yeah,
really think that's
yeah.
so important. Like,
There's so much
life
world to see.
isn't just here where we are.
Yeah,
You need to see
yeah.
another
So much
perspective and
world, so
be
much world. Oh my
yeah, and
gosh.
be open to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always talking to my I have a grandson
Mhm.
who's 16, and I'm always telling him I started teaching ESL when I was older. I was
Mhm.
in my 40s, and if I would have knew this at 18, there wouldn't have been no children.
Right, right.
No children. I'd
Right,
have been in Timbuktu somewhere. I don't know, but it would have none of that.
right,
And
right.
when I experienced it, I said, "Oh my gosh!" So now, because I've been through childhood sexual trauma, so I was
Mm,
late in life, both
mhm.
mentally, physically. I was like older, but spiritually, like
Yep,
I had my little child was like there. I was still
yep.
9. I was still 9 in
Mhm.
my whole emotional package there.
Mm,
And I remember going, and I'm going. I saw the kid come out of me. I was there by myself, right? It took me
mm,
2 days to get there, but I was
mhm.
there. And I wake up after a whole day of sleeping because I was jet lagged. And I wake up and I look out the window, and the springtime was like in February. And so they have these trees that look like cherry blossom trees.
Right,
But
right.
they put out this film, like it looks like cotton floating,
Oh,
and it
cool.
floats through the air, right? And the first time I ever seen it in my life, and it was floating across, and it was, oh, it's so beautiful. But then I busted out crying. It's like, I'm by myself.
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
I'm alone here. Nobody knows me. If I get into an accident, I mean, who's
Yep.
coming? I'm going, all this stuff is flowing through me. But then
Mhm,
after it all flowed out, I breathed in, and I was
mhm,
like, I'm all alone back here by myself.
mhm.
Man, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, 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 exactly, and empowering, empowering
Yes,
that
it was
moment
so
of
empowering. Let me tell you.
realizing that. Yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah,
had a couple moments like that where I've just been completely isolated like that,
yeah,
and it's one of the most like, impactful times was the first time I went to Haiti,
yeah.
and I remember this was 2013, and I
Okay.
can remember being there at night, and it was that same, like, just deep emotion, but
Yeah.
also realizing I was completely alone, and then realizing, "I'm gonna be fine."
Yeah.
I like, I can do that. Like, it was just this, like, roller coaster, but I had to go
Yes.
through the intensity
Yes. The
of
intensity, right.
it, and
Yeah.
then when you get to the other side, I was like, "Okay," and I look back at pivot points in my life, and that definitely was one
Oh,
where it
yeah. That
actually
was
said,
definitely for
"I
me
can
too.
do this. I can
Yeah.
do hard stuff."
Definitely for me, it was a
Mhm.
pivotal moment in my life. It was definitely something I could do. I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I didn't even want to leave. I was like, I covered, almost 30 provinces all but, as a
Yes.
teacher, it was just so much fun. I was like, this
Oh,
is, get to meet people. I'm still friends with
yeah.
a lot of the co-teachers and my students. So it was like the
Amazing.
best experience.
That's
It
awesome.
opened up, this world
Yep.
of travel for me, and then it just everything just started happening. Going on
Yep.
show you here, there. It was just
Yeah.
so much fun. But
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it
Yeah,
opens up
amazing.
an avenue in you, And
It
I was telling
does.
my friend the other day about friendships and being um parent. You
Mhm.
need that friend. You need to have
You
friends,
do.
like, because
You do.
she has adult kids, and so adult kids, if you don't have them really, you have adults, but not adults. You don't have them
Right.
in their 40s, and but they
Right.
can do damage to you, as you get older. She's 10 years older than me, so
Mhm.
she was telling me they were like yelling at her because her mom is 93, went to the doctor's hospital, and
Mhm.
it was her fault. They was like, oh,
Mhm.
it's her fault. Da, 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 da. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's why you need friends like me.
Exactly, exactly. That's so I mean, that is
It's not your
so
fault. It's
true.
not your fault. They
They
just,
speak clarity. I
their
call
own
those
pain.
friends yeah, those are truth tellers. That
Yeah.
is a priceless gift to have a friend
Yes.
like that, that's the truth teller with something like because you could easily take that on.
Yeah.
My fault," and they're yeah. Because
Yes.
I am somebody that's like that, but to have a
Yeah.
friend that's like, "No, do not take that
Yeah.
on,"
It do
and
not
to
take that
allow you
on.
to
I was like,
have that
no, you're not.
moment of like,
I said, they're
"No."
speaking out of their own pain. I said,
Right.
whenever somebody speaks to me in their own, when in their pain, when they're yelling, when it's
Yep.
something that's just a little bit obscure,
Right.
it literally in my mind flip the mirror over. It's looking at me, and I
Yep.
flip it over, and then it's looking at them, and
Ooh, that's
I put
powerful.
it
That's
in
very
a place that they're talking about themselves. They're not
Yep.
talking about you. And
Yeah.
she goes, that is so good. I said, yeah.
Mhm.
Even when I'm in a
Mhm.
store, if somebody starts yelling for no
Yep.
apparent reason, even when
Yeah.
somebody's honking behind me, I
Mhm.
literally turn that on. They're yelling at themselves because they're late.
Right. Oh, that's
They
so
didn't
good.
leave in
No,
enough
because I don't
time
like
and
it
they're
either. If
yelling at you.
yes. Yeah, if somebody honks at me, I'm like, "What? What did I do?" My kids are like, "It is not
I'm
about
telling
you."
you, that's what I
I'm like,
do. Oh, they're talking to themselves because they're late. They should have been got up early. They should have left early, but they didn't. Okay, they're
right.
late.
Right.
So I
So
think
good.
like that a lot. And she was like, "Thank you. I feel like 100% better." But that's why we need, as parents,
Mhm.
in any stage,
Mhm.
we need
Yes,
friends. You
we
know,
do. Absolutely.
when one of my friends, when my son was 5 and her son was 5,
Mhm.
I had to go to work. She wasn't working. I had
Mhm.
to leave him with her. She was his
Mhm.
first babysitter. So it was like we had that type of friendship. My son's now 35 and they're like really cool with each other. Like, oh, come pick me up. Okay, no problem. You know
That's
what I'm saying? So,
awesome. That's so good. Yeah.
but as we need friendships like that. I try to tell all the women, don't abandon your friendships. I had a couple
Right.
clients that, oh, I don't want to go out with my friends because then they don't know I'm depressed. Don't abandon them. If they're
Right.
good friends, don't
Right.
abandon that. So you're going to need that support system.
Right, and, the friends, what like, if that not wanting them to know, that's what friendship's about.
Yeah,
That is they need that's the gift of friendship is
yeah,
sharing those moments, is
yeah,
being vulnerable
yeah,
enough to
yeah.
say, "Come on into my house," like, or come and hear my story. I give the
Yeah,
most basic example of if you were to come to my house and I especially when my kids were young and I apologize for the dishes or the messy house, well, then it
right.
puts the presupposition like, "Oh, she's apologizing for her house, which looks okay." Looks like, and
Yeah,
which makes you think, "Oh, before Rachel would come over, I better clean up because she's already
right,
apologized for something
right.
that's fairly normal." I mean, we
Yeah,
all have kids.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
the laundry it's done for probably 13 seconds in my house, so
yeah.
but when I'm done, and as soon as I'm done, someone's like, "Oh, like,
Yeah,
put something there."
yeah.
But that's just normal, that's just
Yeah,
life.
yeah. And you know what I say now? I used to say that. I used to say what you say. Now I
Mhm.
say, thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for
Yeah,
looking at my dirty dishes. Thank you for
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly, like, yep,
I don't even say
yeah,
that anymore. I just said, thank you for waiting for me.
yeah,
If I'm late, I really
right,
am. Thank you for
right.
waiting for me. It's
Yeah, and
it's
that's
not about that.
respectful.
Things happen.
Yep, yep, that's so good.
Yeah, so that's what I do now. So um, I really appreciate like what you're talking about with friendships and
Mhm,
how do you um if you have a parent who
mhm.
does not have that type of relationship or has a relationship, how do you guide them to get back to having those friendships?
For me, you have to put yourself out there. You cannot expect the friends to you can't be in your house going, "I wish I had friends." And then doing nothing.
Yeah,
It's like if you wanna have friends, you have to be willing to put yourself into situations where you can meet people.
yeah.
Like, you just and that's the vulnerable part for a lot of us is
Oh, that's good.
we don't know if we have it together, we don't
That's
we
good.
think we're supposed to be this way, or I can't meet friends until this is happening, or whatever. We have all these
Hmm.
excuses, but if you wanna
That's good.
have friends, sign up for the class, go for a walk. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a friend that she started a walking group club and now it's a business and it's to get
Wow.
women walking together.
Yeah.
So you gotta put yourself out
Yeah,
there.
that's
It
great.
doesn't mean that like you go somewhere and you're like, wow, I don't really like them. Then you go somebody somewhere else. You just
Yeah.
keep putting yourself out there. You're not
Yeah.
bound to the
Yeah.
first place you try.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, you're making me think because I always want. I started doing that a while ago and was walking. That's my meditation is walking.
Yep.
I love that meditation and I just love it because I started regular meditating, just sitting quiet. But
Mhm.
it gave me a different level of
Yes.
enlightenment than
Yes.
it does with walking. Does all the creativity, the
Yes.
energy. I make it my business to touch the trees,
Love
and the
that.
leaves, and I make it my business to touch them, and it makes me as one with the earth, and
Mhm.
it really is fortifying.
And
If
you
I
see
can't
stuff.
do it, It's
Yeah.
almost like it's not a good day.
Right. No,
It's
no,
not a good day.
there's something so powerful about that because my run takes me by a lake,
Yeah.
and I love it because I've gotten to see the lake change through the seasons. Otherwise, if you don't take that time of stillness, it's just a lake. There's the
Yeah.
lake, and there's the lake. But when you go past it and you observe it, it changes. It's
Oh, yeah.
sometimes the water's different, or there's this mist, and you get to see and experience the
Sure.
creation around you
Sure.
in a way that you wouldn't if you're just zipping through life. So
Yeah.
I completely resonate with the
Oh,
walk
that's good. Yeah,
meditation.
that's good. So what's on the horizon for you that you can share with us that, maybe some of the audience can attend to virtually?
All right. Well, I just actually am releasing in August. So in just 2 weeks from when we've recorded this podcast, I'll be releasing my third book, Get Your Spark Back. And I'm
Nice.
super, super excited about it because there's a chapter on there about friendships, because
Oh, good.
many of my readers would come to me and they would say, well, how do I get my spark back? And that question is so powerful because
Hmm.
nobody actually would come to me and say, how do I get a spark? It's always possessive mine. And how do I get it back? Knowing
Right.
I really want this. I want
Yeah.
to live with my soul in
Yeah.
alignment. And so the book goes through all the questions we tell ourselves, like why we can't do it. Like, what if I don't
Uh-huh.
have time? What if I don't have money?
Oh,
What if
yeah,
people
that's good.
reject me? What if I'm
Yes.
too old? All of that. And it
Yes.
goes through that process. And
Hmm.
it's a lot of storytelling. I call myself a storyteller. So I tell these stories, and the whole journey is, it's not one size fits all. Okay, if you do step one, step two, step three, it's about that introspection and that soul's journey of figuring out who we were created to be and what lights
That's
our
good.
soul up and what makes us happy. And it's really a journey that when you and I live with our life alive like that, we inspire others. And
Yes.
that's where the friendship happens.
Yes. Awesome. Well, that's really good. And congratulations on
Thank
that. I am
thank
excited.
you.
I'm also a writer, so I love writing.
I do
Books
too.
just come out. They'll keep
Mhm.
coming. They'll keep coming.
That's so good. That's so good.
They'll keep coming out. I am on my 32nd.
Amazing. That's
Yeah, I
amazing.
am so excited about, the couple projects that are coming up. I have a book that's called The You Project,
I love that.
how to be
I love,
yourself, how to
yeah,
be your real
that's so
self.
good.
So it's my own experience, like you said, the
Mhm,
story is what makes it happen.
mhm,
It connects with so many people. And I
mhm,
remember telling my authenticity story, and it was pretty tragic, but I had a car accident and
mhm.
I was in hospital 43 days. And not until that happened did I really know who I was, because all the
Right.
other stuff never mattered.
Oh,
And
mm,
that's when I really had a conversation with myself. Why? Because
right.
I had downtime.
Yes. Yes.
you know,
What's interesting?
you had
Yeah.
downtime.
I really think that the reason so many people have asked me that question is a lot of us ended up post-pandemic or during that time. I'm very grateful for all the first responders and the people that didn't
Oh
get
yes. Oh
downtime.
yes. Oh
But a
yes.
lot of people ended up coming face to face with themselves. Like there
Right.
were no more projects to do in a lot of people's houses because there
No.
was so much downtime, but they did all the projects that kept them busy.
Yes.
And then they
Yes.
came face to face with themselves
Yeah.
and said, a lot of people were like, well, I don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
And that's a very uncomfortable place to get to, like, well,
Yes.
who am I now? Or I tell
Yes.
people, no one plans for the hard stuff. No one puts, I want to
No.
go be in a car accident when I'm 30, or I'm going to be
Right.
go through a divorce when I'm 40 in their
Mhm.
yearbook. And yet we all have these stories. And then we get to these places where we're like, I'm the only one. And
Yeah.
we're not, you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
More like
That
we're a
was a great
community.
time
Yeah.
for people to see that how relationships would pass,
Yes.
would last, and how they wouldn't, and
Yes.
if they went through something, they couldn't even leave.
No, no,
They
you're
couldn't
face to
even leave.
face. You're
They
face.
learned to love their children more, like
Yep.
literally love them more, and not to say anything. I'm not saying it negative, but tolerate them. Where
Yes.
we would send them to their room. Now they're in your space. How do we make this
So
work?
true. Yeah, I tell
How do we
people a lot.
make it work? And I
Yes.
was, I was, I was quarantined with my grandchildren. So I'm like,
Okay.
woo, how do we
Yes.
make this work?
We
And
are
it
and
was
you we just
like,
did.
then they got COVID, and then I got
Oh,
COVID, and then it was just this thing, and we were together for
oh,
several months. And
right.
and my grandson was going online school, granddaughter was going online school. I'm like,
Yes.
oh, like,
Right,
you
right.
know,
Oh,
and I had to love them and learn
yep.
quickly how to be able to navigate. And I think that's a
Yes.
lot of us learn how to navigate indoors in a box. In a box.
Yes, and how we were so strong. I really don't know if we realize. I think in the future, I've told my kids, it will be in your my grandchildren's history books, and
Yes.
it'll be
Yes.
this story,
Absolutely.
and we sometimes dismiss it, like, but
Mhm.
I'll look back at pictures of my one daughter, who ended up living with us. She was just going to go to Europe and then live with us for about 3 weeks, and then was going to go on and do her next thing. And then everything happened. So she was stuck with us.
Yeah.
And I look at pictures of her in a grocery store with nothing. And
Yeah.
I thought, now looking back, it's it's almost a little bit very hard to look at, like the
Yeah.
reality of what it was. But
Yes.
all of us pushed through. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think we don't even give ourselves the credit
Yeah,
with
and
the
we really
strength it
pushed
took to
through.
do that.
Just going to the grocery store, seeing, like, everything
One roll of
gone.
toilet paper,
And
splitting it with a random
I
stranger.
was like, "What the
Yeah,
heck is up with the toilet paper?"
I
Like,
know.
I really didn't get it. I honestly did not get it. I
I didn't
honestly
either.
didn't.
I didn't either. I thought that is a lot of bathroom time. Yep.
Well, at least people saved on gas and transportation, a lot
Right,
of it,
very
because
true.
I remember going out one time and I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna drive around." And
Mhm.
I mean, it looked like the old Wild Wild West with, like,
Yeah,
those the dust going and those
I
big
know.
things
So
swirling in the
true.
air. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it
Right.
really is, no one's out. Like, it's
No,
serious. It's
no.
really
You know
serious."
what? I did think that this was a really powerful thing, is our neighborhood became a neighborhood during
Wow.
that.
Yes.
Which was
Yes.
amazing, because we live
Yes.
in a, like, people go in their garage, shut the garage door, people go in their house, close the door, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden, family became the people across the street and
Yeah.
next door to you,
Yeah,
and that is
everybody
what
was checking on
priceless.
each other.
Yes,
I was
yes.
I was living in the apartment building, and
Mhm.
everybody was like, there were people that has a does anybody need anything from the store? They would yell down the hallway, anybody
Oh,
need
that gives
anything,
me goosebumps.
and
Yes.
anybody, because I'm ordering from, and they would bring
Right.
it, anybody need anything? It was like everybody cared for everybody. It was,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that was like phenomenal for me.
Mhm.
Like, I used to get, like, I would we sick and they heard that we sick. I saw get like containers of Gatorade sitting outside of our door. It was like
People
really,
are
really
just
caring.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good
Yeah.
stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of learning in there. So,
Yep.
if we want it. But really,
Yep.
I thank you for being here. This was amazing conversation and
Thank
about
you.
relationships. And I know that you're going to be, launching your book. You get your spark back, and I love that.
Thank
So
you.
I wish you all the best. And right now, this is the end of the show. So I'm your host, Edna White of Keeping It Real on Purpose. And this is my esteemed guest, Rachel Marie Martin, saying goodbye for now.